This is my nonfiction analysis on George Orwell's reflections on Gandhi. Uh, First of all, I'd like to start off with just a short summary of the text. So the text is basically an analysis of Gandhi's life, uh, an analysis which describes Orwell's issues with Gandhi's ideologies, such as vegetarianism, homemade clothes, and economical points of view. For an example, Orwell says, quote, "The thing that one associated with him, homespun clothes, soul forces, and vegetarianism, were unappealing, and his medievalist program was obviously not viable in a backward, starving, overpopulated country," unquote. And here he gives an example of an issue one could argue for, which he does. However, in his essay, Orwell also noted Gandhi's honesty, strength, and the fact that he was a good man, and the fact that he was a good politician. So he sort of argues both sides of his case. And here I quote, "Gandhi's worst enemy would also admit that he is an interesting and unusual man who enriched the world by simply being alive," unquote. Anyway, so let's start off with the analysis. First of all, the text is a personal essay. And the theme of the essay is, as previously stated, issues with Gandhi's ideologies. And so the writer, of course, is George Orwell, who was born in India in 1903 and known for his essays and his novels, which are often written with a sort of satirical touch, irony, a lot of irony. Which brings me to my next point. Which is one of the things that characterizes this essay is that Orwell is not very ironic. And irony is one of Orwell's special features, which he uses in a lot of his essays. Animal Farm and Shooting an Elephant, to name a few. But in this essay, he does not really use irony to make his point. He's very known for being honest, but disguising the honesty as irony. But in this case, honesty is not really disguised, and it's just plain honesty, and he's very direct. So it's more provocative in a direct way, as Orwell also mentions that Gandhi's ideologies, such as nonviolence, is actually a ploy to escape reality, love, and the pain of life, which is sort of a direct thing to say. It's not really. It doesn't hide anything behind irony. As well as Orwell uses arguments against the nonviolence. Anyway, so there are also many different sentence structures, and one is especially noticeable to me. And that's in the beginning of the essay, where he starts out with what looks like a simple sentence. So I quote, "Saints should always be judged guilty until proven innocent," and then it continues, but unquote. But then he expands the sentence and he transforms it into a more complex one. And so I quote, "But the tests that have to be applied to them are not, of course, the same in all cases," unquote. So this is a sort of unusual sentence structure, which has been very noticeable to me while making this analysis. But Orwell also uses a variety of words, and these words, even though his essays are about his issues with Gandhi's principles, these words state that he's able to argue both sides of his case, which is pretty good. And these words are words like however, though, and moreover, which he uses pretty frequently. But besides that, the language in general is very formal, and he avoids using a lot of common words. So yes, very formal in general. As another feature, he uses rhetorical questions, such as, quote, "Is gratitude a factor in international politics," unquote. These questions help the reader reflect on Gandhi's ideologies, as well as whether Orwell has a point, and also what the reader himself thinks of the topic. It kind of makes you think more than besides what you already know. I'd like to speak a little bit about the forms of appeal that he uses to kind of create a bond between the reader and himself. And Orwell mostly uses ethos as his primary form of appeal, as this essay, of course, in general, is based on Orwell's own feelings about Gandhi. And this becomes very obvious when he, in the beginning of the essay, states that that Gandhi did not leave an impression on him. So here we're introduced to the fact that it's about him and his own feelings. But he also uses ethos as a form of appeal, as he did live in the same time period as Gandhi, and this gives his opinions a little bit more credibility, as they could have affected him, and as he was also a part of the British Empire. And of course, because of the fact that he uses actual facts about Gandhi's actions, logos is also a form of appeal that Orwell makes a bit of use of. So I don't think that Orwell, with his essay, intends to either educate or convince people to share his opinions of Gandhi. I don't think that's what it is. I think that because of the fact that Gandhi is looked upon as a saint, even by people who might not know much about him, I think Orwell intends to make people reflect upon the fact that Gandhi might not be a saint as much as just a good man, a good person. I think he intends to make the reader think about the fact that Gandhi's ideologies also had negative effects, since most people think of Gandhi as a person who's always right, and they think of Gandhi's actions as sort of godlike, and by that I mean that he could impossibly be wrong. So I think Orwell intends to make people think about the fact that perhaps not all of his actions were as positive as we think they were. And I think that George Orwell could be characterized as pretty reliable, as he mostly, first of all, uses ethos to create a bond between the reader and himself. And of course, he does use facts, and he does argue against those facts, but at the same time, he argues both sides of his case, while actually just being honest about his own feelings. So I would characterize him as pretty reliable. So all in all, in order to analyze this text, I've been using the rhetorical pentagon, and I've been using the forms of appeal. And these forms of appeal, they reveal the writer's reason to write the way he does, and the rhetorical pentagon reveals the writer's overall intention. So that's the way I've been getting through this analysis, besides the whole nonfiction analysis. Yep, I think that's it.